NoDQ Galaxy, we are back with another edition of the NoDQ Review, number 27, and I am Virtue here with the A- team. And I have to say minus because we don't have Jeff Meacham and we have Big G. But that's not a bad thing. You're technically in the A team if you think about it. So Big G, what's up, man?
What is going on, guys? I am doing great tonight. Just came back from the pool about half an hour ago, nice and relaxed, to do this NoDQ review. What is up, Mr. Wrestling Trivia Challenge Champion Greg Cherry?
137 days and counting. Yes, I'm doing very well. Just finished watching Big Brother. Big fan of the show. I have to admit that there is more to life outside of wrestling, which
yes,
I think is thankful for most of us in some cases. But
one of our other columnists, Justin Watry, Jay's Ways, he watches that show all the time too. So maybe you should hook up with him. I don't know anything about it. Is that something I should watch?
Depends if you're into reality television. I mean, it's a show I've been watching for years.
Was Sid on episodes of that in the past with his son?
Sid's son was. I don't know if he was.
Okay, all right.
I know a former NXT guy was in Big Brother a couple of years ago too. So.
Well, I'll check some out. I'll see what's up with that. Aaron, the boss man, what's going on? We are here for the review number 27. What's up?
Yeah, it's hard to believe we've been doing this for almost a year now with this review series. We got the T-shirt that you're wearing. Check it out, nodq.com/shirts. I'm just getting the plugs out right away here. Big G has his shirt, of course, over at nodq.com/shirts. This shirt is not available on Pro Wrestling Tees. I actually got this from Daniel Jobber, so I'm shilling out his T-shirt here on the video. Go follow him on Twitter and Facebook. He was a contestant on Wrestling Trivia Challenge, and I think he has the second worst record of all time behind poor Steve-O, but he was a good sport about it. Maybe he would have a better chance against you, Greg, but I heard we have some other challengers that are ready, willing, and able to take you on. So we'll see how that goes over the next several weeks. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this review started, Virtue.
All right, well, we're going to start with, I guess this is the first WWE All-Women's event. What do they classify the Mae Young Classic, though? So I want everyone's thoughts on this because we had Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie introduce WWE Evolution, and there's a lot of things going through my mind when I saw that segment. Triple H was very emotional. The fact that Stephanie was not out there alone. The name of the event. Aaron, I want to start with you. How was the announcement in your opinion? Did you like the way they did it? And my other question is, who do you believe really started the women's revolution?
Well, that's a loaded question, both of them actually. I thought it was a good segment. I thought it was well done overall. I understand why Triple H was out there. I think it was done to prevent Stephanie from getting the what chance. I think if she was out there alone, there would have been a chance of the crowd turning against her. I think Vince out there also added to the segment to make it more of a big deal. I thought it was well done. No real complaints about it. And like I've said in other videos, I think that this first show should be good. If they do it once a year, I'm cool with it. If it replaces a pay-per-view like Clash of Champions, I'm cool with it. If they start doing a women's pay-per-view every month in addition to a regular pay-per-view, I'm just going to lose my mind. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I still hope WWE sticks with their 12 pay-per-views a year schedule. And as far as who started the women's revolution, should it be called like Revolution or something instead of Evolution? I don't know. But that's just
isn't that what AJ Lee said? Revolution? Well,
Maybe.
I don't remember what she said. But.
She's the one that was complaining about the women not getting paid as much as the men, and then that's when the Give Divas a Chance hashtag started. So conveniently, no mentioning of AJ Lee, but there's a lot of different names you could point to. I think AJ Lee has to be at the top of the list, though, because I think back to when she came out and cut that promo on all the divas, including the Bellas, on Raw. It was basically her version of CM Punk's pipe bomb. To me, that was really the turning point. You know, the women were presented a certain way, basically as eye candy. And then once AJ Lee cut that promo, she was pretty much the opposite. She was the one that wanted to go out there and be more about the wrestling and actually have some credibility rather than just be eye candy. And of course, AJ Lee never went on Total Divas. You know, she just did her own thing. I think she has to be the most important name as far as the 2014-2015 period goes, where the transition was made. And I think Paige would have to be up there towards the top of the list also, with her work in NXT. And Emma, who unfortunately is no longer with the company. But I would say those three played very important roles in really turning the corner on the whole women's division in WWE. So, Big G, let's get your thoughts on the situation, your thoughts on the promo, and who do you think was the most important figure in terms of the women's revolution? And do not say Stephanie McMahon.
No. Well, I thought it was great as well. Like you said, I think we can all agree if Triple H and Vince weren't out there, they would have booed Stephanie. They would have given her the what chance. They would have chanted, "We want Triple H" or something like that. So all three of them out there. I like how Triple H did most of the talking. You know, yeah, he might have worked us. He might have been sensitive about it because he's worked with a lot of those women in NXT. As far as it being called Evolution, Revolution, Evolution, same thing. As far as who started it, oh, man, that's tough. I mean, you could say AJ Lee, but me and Virtue were talking about last night on Virtue's Rage. I mean, Chyna started it way back in the day. She had wrestled with the men. She won the Intercontinental Championship. She was the first woman to be in the Royal Rumble. But if you talk about present day, I'm going to have to say AJ Lee as well. Greg, what do you think?
You know, I agree with both of you. I'm looking forward to this event. If you would have had this event maybe even 4 or 5 years ago with the roster of women they had then, I would have been like, why? Why in the world are you doing this? But now, with the roster they have, which is focused on the actual in-ring wrestling, and they have an incredible roster of women right now. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm really excited about this event because of all the potential dream matches that there could be happening on this show. Still holding out hope for Trish Stratus and Sasha Banks in a one-on-one. As far as who started it, I mean, we talked about AJ Lee, but you know who else deserves some of the credit? And I actually wrote about this years ago, Caitlyn. Because AJ Lee and Caitlyn had a solid feud for the then Divas Championship, and it was about the in-ring work. The storyline too, but the in-ring work between the two of them was great, especially for the time. And now that Caitlyn's coming back in the Mae Young Classic, you know, I think that she could potentially be on that show in some fashion, because I believe Michael Cole said the finals of the Mae Young Classic is going to happen at Evolution.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if she makes the finals, then that'll be a good main roster spot for her. Go ahead, Big G.
And you're going to have 50 women from then, now, and today. So, like you said, we could have potential dream matches. We could have Bayley versus Lita, Trish versus Sasha. I mean, they could even introduce the women's tag team titles if they do that as well.
Yep.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing an Alundra Blaze appearance. Wouldn't that be wild? Especially with dropping the women's title in the trash can all those years ago.
Yeah, wasn't she on a kickoff a few months ago and it was really awkward with JBL?
Yeah.
It was the Rumble kickoff because JBL was like throwing her of who she thought was going to win. She didn't answer. It was on an episode of Botchamania too, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But her in-ring work was always better than her mic work, so I mean, we'll see what happens.
You know, I'm hoping that this just isn't a supplement to make up for the fact that the women couldn't compete at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Hopefully this was a plan, and it probably was. Obviously, they had the Aaron.
I just wanted to say Triple H did an interview with, I'm not sure if it was ESPN or somebody else, but he said that is not the case at all. It had nothing to do with the Greatest Royal Rumble. So just throwing that out there.
Again, you played into what I was bringing up perfectly. Triple H is one of the greatest workers of all time. Maybe one of the guys that can still kayfabe better than anybody. I question his emotion in the ring. It probably was there. Yeah. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I'm telling you, I could also see Triple H walk through that curtain and look at Vince and Stephanie. I hope they bought it. Nonetheless, the most important thing as for the female talent on the WWE roster, they are probably going to make more money because of this. So my feelings towards Triple H and all whatever, if he's working the crowd, if he really meant what he said about the Greatest Royal Rumble, it doesn't matter. These women are going to have this show. It's their day. They're going to make more money. Now, Chyna is my sentimental favorite because she wrestled guys. Jeff Jarrett, Chris Jericho. It was a great time. I loved wrestling back then. But everybody skipped this. I believe, to me, Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix is the one, in my opinion, that kind of, without saying it, just by doing it in the ring, she, to me, started this revolution. So, any thoughts on Beth? And I hope she has a match at this show.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Beth, too, that she'll be there. I think she could have a match, potentially, against Nia Jax, possibly, or even Tamina, one of the bigger girls.
Well, they're going to have 3 hours. Aaron, how long do you think this will go? 4?
I hope 3. If it's more than 3, I'm just going to get annoyed.
Well, if they have 50 women. So, transitioning into the next topic by our friend Mr. Tito.
Yeah.
He always brings up these great topics, and I know the NoDQ Galaxy appreciates these. So he asked me the question, or he wanted us to answer this. Besides Ronda Rousey, can this women's division draw in WWE on its own besides just one show like they're going to do with Evolution? He basically said, is there a single star, not named Ronda because she was a bigger star outside of WWE, on the current roster that could put 10,000 people in arenas? Greg, I'm going to start with you. Answer Mr. Tito's question, and we all will.
If it's anything like the NXT shows, which focus on the in-ring work, I think they could do it. I think they absolutely could do it. I mean, Alexa Bliss is probably one of the hottest stars in the women's division. And really the SmackDown Women's Championship, I think the belt has to come off of Carmella before then. I think Becky Lynch would be a solid representative for the SmackDown brand if she, in fact, defeats her at SummerSlam. So I really do think the women's division can draw besides Ronda Rousey, because Ronda Rousey is still not in the... I mean, yeah, she's in the title picture, but she's not really the main draw of the women's division. It's still Alexa Bliss, who has done a fantastic job since being called up from NXT 2 years ago. It's hard to believe she wasn't even a champion in NXT, and she's a 5-time women's champion on the main roster. I loved that pick as soon as I saw it in the draft. I was like, she's going to be a huge star. And I was right. I knew she had that potential in her, so go Alexa Bliss. Besides that, I think the 4 horsewomen, Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, and I mentioned Becky already. I think the 4 of them could carry the women's division, the women's show, without an issue. I mean, they've proven the in-ring work against each other, with each other as partners. I think the women's division will be fine. Aaron?
I think it's the WWE brand that sells, so I really don't think we'll ever really know if somebody like Charlotte could put 10,000 people in an arena. It's just a different era now. By the way, great question, Mr. Tito, if you're watching this. We love you. NoDQ definitely has some mad respect for you, my friend. I think that Charlotte would have the most potential because of her name value. I think Becky would too, just because of her natural charisma and presence in the ring. Other than that, I'm not really sure if, let's just say if they had a chance to fill a 10,000 seat arena, I'm not sure if they could pull it off, but since the WWE is so strong brand-wise, maybe they could. I still think Ronda Rousey is the focal point, Greg, though. You look at the Evolution poster or graphic or whatever, Ronda Rousey's right there in the center with the champions on the side of her. She's front and center on the poster. Big G, your thoughts on it?
I'm going to have to agree with you guys. Well, for one, I think Ronda Rousey is part of the women's division. But then, like Greg said, you got Alexa Bliss, you got Becky Lynch as well, who could possibly, they could draw a 10,000 seat arena. And even Charlotte, I think like you said, the 4 horsewomen, basically. I don't know if Bayley could. I mean, people like Bayley, but she's not up there, even though she's part of the 4 horsewomen. And even if they bring up some NXT girls, for this show, I think they could draw as well.
You know, Big G, you know what it comes down to? WWE doesn't allow somebody to get over anymore like a Rock did, like an Austin did. Imagine what some of these females could be if they allowed that. Now, Ronda's a special case, right? Aaron, Greg, they have a lot of money invested into her, so they're going to put her on NBC having a champion and Nia Jax challenge, the champion challenge the challenger. We've talked about that before. So to me, that screams Ronda is the center of this women's division and women's revolution. But I just hope that if they're using her to help get to this show and their idea of having women do their own thing more often, that it transitions into either Ronda becomes a great WWE superstar and we're no longer looking at her as an outsider, we're looking at her as an insider inside the WWE bubble, and or somebody like Charlotte, Becky gets that opportunity to become a big star. And again, in today's WWE, and we will talk about that later in the show, Roman Reigns, they just don't allow these superstars to be liked at the level that Austin and The Rock used to. And maybe nobody's as talented as those guys. I don't know. Greg, you brought up Becky getting a shot, she's going to get a shot at the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's our next topic. Aaron, I'm going to start with you because you've been a proponent of Becky's for a very, very long time. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, Wrestling Trivia Challenge champion. Becky was already a SmackDown Women's Champion, right?
First. She was the first one.
Was that so she had a run, but it was kind of short.
Yep.
So is this her time now where maybe she can be the one to beat Carmella? Obviously, it didn't happen for Asuka, so I'm led to believe they're going to go with Becky. Aaron, what's your thoughts on Becky? Is it her time?
I think so. I think she should win the title at SummerSlam and move on and feud with Charlotte for the title for a while and just let them go back and forth, and then whoever's hotter, put them in there with Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. I'm thinking it's going to be Charlotte, but, Becky-Charlotte feud would be interesting for the title. I think that should be the next big feud on SmackDown Live. Just my personal opinion, though. Some might disagree with me on that. And I'm going to go with Becky to win. I know it's early for predictions, but I'm going to say Becky wins, and knowing how things turn out, it'll end up being Carmella. But Big G, do you think it's time, or do you think Carmella still has some juice left as champion?
Well, I used to be all about Mella is money, but now I'm going with Becky Balboa. I think it is her time. She's proven it time and time again. The fans still cheer for her. She still gets a good reaction when she comes out. Trying to think here. Yeah, the last time she was champion was 2016 when they did the brand split. It's been almost 2 years. I think it is her time. Somebody put on Virtue's Rage last night while we were doing, saying that Charlotte should come back and turn heel on her and then have the feud there, and then possibly have Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, or even, like you said, Becky versus Charlotte or Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam or at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to see at this upcoming Evolution pay-per-view, I think the title match should be Charlotte versus Becky. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I can see that.
No, Becky never was the NXT Women's Champion, was she?
No.
Nope. She was the only one of the horsewomen that wasn't.
Yeah. That's crazy. You think about it. All these, like Alexa Bliss was never NXT champion either, but yeah, she's one of the top heels, if not the top heel of Monday Night Raw. Right?
Something about sports entertainment, Big G. Now, Greg, everybody knows you're a big Sasha fan.
Yep.
So I'm interested in your take on Becky. And Sasha's had the Raw Women's Championship a few times, but they've never let her sustain a long title run. I miss those these days. I mean, not at the level that Brock has the Universal title, but we're, like AJ being the WWE champion. I miss these longer title reigns. You think Becky has a nice long title reign in store?
Well, I hope so. I mean, Becky's reign was longer than I think all of Sasha's 4 combined. She did have a good NXT women's title reign. That was a few months. But, I think they'll do well by Becky. Becky really has to win because Carmella, as much as she's charismatic, because I do like her character. I do. And people might be like, oh, she's terrible in the ring. It's like, well, you can't win them all. But I think it's Becky's time. She is the complete package of the women's division. She's talented. She's got charisma. She can cut promos. She's funny. Like, I mean, what more could you ask for a representative of your women's division? I mean, Becky Lynch is that complete package.
Yep, yeah. I agree, and I think that it should be her time. And if I was booking WWE, nothing against Carmella, but you know how Vince likes to do this once in a while? I'd have Becky beat Carmella in like seconds to become the champion. You know, just have that one quick match, shock everybody. But anyway,
sure.
Aaron, did you have something else to say?
Oh, not really.
We know you love Becky.
I just think you all made some great points there. But Greg, you know, you said Becky has to win. Didn't we say the same thing about Asuka, where she has to win? There's no way that they can have her lose.
Yeah, and I have no idea what they're doing with Asuka.
Well, because of what happened with Asuka, Becky has to win even more. We can't have Carmella just making all these top
She's the gender of the women's division.
Yeah, Carmella's beat Charlotte twice and Asuka twice. Is like, who else do you have as a babyface on SmackDown in the women's division that could take the title from Carmella?
Charlotte.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? They could do. I don't know if they would do this, but if they really wanted to mess with us, they would have Lana beat Carmella for the women's title.
That's about right.
Oh man, yeah.
Just to annoy the hell out of us, they would put Lana with the women's title.
You know what? Give Lana credit where it's due. She did well.
Oh, I know. Match. Oh, I know. I'm just saying. Don't get me wrong about Lana, but that if WWE thinks that way, they would do something just like that.
You know, since you brought up Lana, this is not a listed topic, but I want everyone's thoughts. And Aaron, you've already touched base on this. So Rusev Day, you see where they're going with it now, right? Yeah. Aiden English and Rusev. Is it blowing up? What's going on? Is this going to be bad for Aiden if they break up? So, Greg, I want to start with you. I know Aaron really, really likes Aiden English. It's a guy where his NXT gimmick with the Vaudevillains didn't work on the main roster. He started singing a little bit, and he got paired with Rusev, and a dynamic was born. You see, he tributes The Rock a little bit in his poses, which some people say, I think it's great. I think people like Aiden could become nice mid-card level talents because the fans get behind them. But why do I feel WWE never sees this and he'll get buried? What's your thoughts on this triangle? Will it become a full-blown feud with Rusev, Aiden, Lana? Greg?
You know, it almost kind of has to become a feud, but I don't know what they would do with Aiden English other than they would probably have to turn Rusev face, number one, out of this. But I feel like they would just make Aiden English back to the generic heel he was before he was paired with Rusev. And that's my fear, because when somebody turns heel, it's either incredibly brilliant and their character takes off, or it's really dull and they're just generic. And that's my fear for Aiden English. Yeah, I think of what happened when Prime Time broke up. Shad was this generic heel, and they were both gone with it. Well, not JTG. He stuck around for like 17 years. But Shad was gone like 2 months later.
Yeah.
Enzo and Cass. Look how well that worked out for both of them, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to break up a tag team, you're not going to get to the level of the Rockers. But you have to, I don't know. I worry for Aiden English.
Greg, could Aiden be that player that they use to pair with somebody different that needs help along the way, and he makes a career out of being sidekicks with people? Because then that would give him a whole new thing to sing about somebody else. And who could be? Who could it be? Who could he help get over? Do you think he could be used that way? Like Ty Dillinger? I mean, again, that's reaching, but you know what I mean. Could he be a sidekick to get people over?
Yeah, the thing is, like, people saw Rusev as a potential superstar, and, like, he was the victim of bad booking. And then once the Rusev Day things, it's like, okay, this is a reason to get behind him again. And then they did. And then he was in a title match at WrestleMania. He had his first WWE Championship match at Extreme Rules. So the potential was there for Rusev. And maybe that's part of the booking. Maybe they're saying, hey, Rusev works on his own. Maybe we can get this Rusev Day thing over as a babyface when it's already over, and just push Rusev from there. So maybe this is wishful thinking. A lot of it is that we talked about here, but that's what I see.
Well, that's what the NoDQ Galaxy likes to listen to. Jeff, thoughts on Aiden, Rusev?
So I think this will turn into a feud. They'll have a match at SummerSlam. Lana could be the special guest referee or something like that, or they fight for Lana's rights, because Rusev yesterday said maybe nobody deserves Rusev Day.
On the kickoff.
So they could, that. What they do with Aiden English, like you said, he could be a sidekick to help people out. Put him with Shinsuke Nakamura right there. Have him with Nakamura, have Aiden do all the talking for him. So Nakamura doesn't have to speak anymore.
I like it.
Aiden could even sing for him too. Aiden could learn Japanese and sing his theme song for him. I don't know. That's what I think.
Sign up WWE. Sign up Big G. Have him work side by side with Road Dogg. I like that idea. Eric, I know this is probably a broken record for you.
Yeah, well, I like this idea that somebody had during NoDQ Live. I'd like to see Aiden English get traded to Raw and have him and Elias form a band and they start doing performances together. That's what I would like to see.
See the possibilities if WWE would just open up their horizons with this creative stuff. All right, well, I just wanted to bring that up because I found it interesting after watching SmackDown. Next topic, and this is a doozy. I don't even know if I can get this right. I know we have 2 shows. I know we have NXT. So we have the NXT Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, NXT Tag Team, the UK, which is that technically NXT or is that just on its own?
That's a separate brand, the UK brand.
North American. So there's 5 titles in NXT, and everybody knows there's parallel titles on Raw and SmackDown. Universal, WWE, Intercontinental, United States, Tag Team, and Women's. We talked about this on a debate video, Aaron, women's tag team titles. Now, I said if they have their own show, weekly show, it's fine to have that. But are there just too many titles, or is it because they have the brands? I'm going nuts with all these championships. Aaron, what do you think? I just feel that nothing ever seems important, and they're important titles never on Raw.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you dwindle titles, combine?
Absolutely.
Maybe have.
I think there's too many titles. Big G, have you been taking note of all the titles with your list of Jericho, by the way?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
pull that list up.
Of Jericho?
No, it's the list of Jeffrey.
I'm going to change it. I'm going to put the list of Big G.
Yes.
So
right on.
But yeah, I have all. Actually, I didn't write down the titles, but they're all like embedded in my brain. So
yeah,
if you guys miss one, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I said this a long time ago. I think the titles should be merged. I think that there should be one world champion for both shows, one tag team champions for both shows, one mid-card champion for both shows. Get rid of the U.S. title, just have the IC title, and then maybe add the women's tag team titles, and maybe add another title, maybe do a 6-man title or something different just to change things up. I'd like to see something that we haven't seen before, but that's just my own personal opinion on it. I know some people have different views. I said this a long time ago, though. I said this 2 years ago that I prefer one champion on both shows. I think it elevates the title, and it's more of an incentive for somebody to win the title because they get to be on big shows. And in storyline and kayfabe, technically being on both shows means you make more money. So I think that it makes logical sense. But Gregory, your thoughts on that?
I've never had a problem with there being too many championships. I understand there's a lot because of the brand split. I do like having the world champion and the tag team champions and really the women's champion on both shows. Because if you remember back in the original brand split, there was still only the one women's champion, and the SmackDown women were like, it's honestly like, why are women even competing on SmackDown? There's nothing for them to fight for. And that was the case for years, for like 6 years, that they didn't have anything to fight for. So a women's champion for both shows, a world champion for both shows, and a tag team champion for both shows. I'm fine with there being the Intercontinental and the U.S. title. I'm fine with that. I think they should bring back, I know they probably can't because of the PG stuff, I really miss the hardcore title. Because that championship was a fun championship. Anybody could win it anywhere. So realistically, that could be a championship across both shows. Because it's like, hey, a SmackDown guy could show up and beat the Raw guy for the title, take it to SmackDown for a little bit. It's one of those things that it brings the entertainment value. I miss it. They probably can't do it because of the hardcore nature of what it used to be, and they can't take headshots and whatever. But, they could do something similar to that, like a 24/7 championship or something. I don't know what they call it, but that'd be my personal opinion. I don't think there's too many championships. It makes sense to me.
So are you a supporter of the participation trophies where everybody gets a trophy because they tried?
No. There's not that many championships. Good criminy.
Well, I could barely name all of them. It's gotten to that point.
All right, who wants to name every champion? Let's split it up. Go back and forth. Every champion on SmackDown, Raw, and in NXT. I probably couldn't get them all. So Big B and Greg, this is it. Do it. Tell everybody.
All right. So I'll do Raw. You do SmackDown. And we'll do NXT together. All right. So you got the B. You got B team as the tag team champions. Dolph as the IC champion. Lesnar as the Universal Champion, and Alexa as the Women's Champion.
Pausing on that one because it was Lesnar. We don't know where he's at. All right. What was after Lesnar?
Alexa as the Raw Women's Champion.
Okay. So I got SmackDown. So you got WWE Champion AJ Styles, United States Champion Shinsuke Nakamura, Tag Team Champions the Bludgeon Brothers, Women's Champion Carmella, 205 Live Cruiserweight Champion Cedric Alexander. Boom.
Well, see, Greg, nice. You're the trivia expert and you remember everything. So naturally, it's easier for you to say, "Oh yeah, I like it. I think there's not too many titles," because you remember everything anyways.
Now, is it too early to do NXT? Is it too early to do NXT, or is that still spoiling?
No. All right. So NXT.
We could talk about the spoilers.
Okay, I get confused.
All
right. NXT. We have the new NXT champion Tommaso Ciampa. We have as the North American champion Adam Cole, baby. We have the tag team champions, the Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish. And as the NXT Women's Champion, we have my girl Shayna Baszler. And as the NXT UK's champion, we have the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne.
Pete, don't call me well done.
So apparently there's not too many titles if you guys easily remember those. But you know what? This is a new topic. See what happens when you do something like this. You said Tommaso Ciampa, and I knew about the spoilers. Yeah. What does everybody think when they do this and they have a title change at taped events like that? Whether it's a house show or it's a recording for a future network show, what do you think of stuff like that? Aaron, I'll start with you.
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
Let Jeffrey answer one first. You keep going.
All right, I'll go first. So I do watch NXT every Wednesday. Not at the time though, but like a little bit afterwards. I think it's fun. Yeah, they only have the TakeOver pay-per-views usually at the big shows like Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and so forth, Survivor Series. But if you watch NXT faithfully, then you'll see that they'll defend the NXT title on there. They defend the NXT UK title on there, the tag team titles, the women's titles. They only have an hour, and each week you have different wrestlers on there. You always don't see the same wrestler on there. Right. So like one week you'll see EC3 and I'm blanking, Velveteen Dream and others. Aleister Black, and then the other week you won't see them. You'll see the other NXT wrestlers. So it's a change of pace for me, I like Raw and SmackDown still, but when it comes to NXT, I find it more entertaining for that just 1 hour.
Do you like titles changing hands where spoilers can be leaked, where it's not like live on television? We've had it before. Tony Schiavone obviously tried. He basically said Mick Foley won, but more people ended up going over to watch that.
I don't read
hear Schiavone's voice when a spoiler comes out that someone won a title.
I don't read the NXT spoilers. I try to keep myself,
Nice.
I keep myself entertained because if I read the spoilers and I watch it, I'm like, oh yeah, Tommaso Ciampa won. Wonderful. Yeah. So I have no problem with it.
All right, so you support that. All right, so you obviously like the Ciampa win. Well deserved for him. Greg, any thoughts?
Well, it gets a pop from the live crowd. It gets that live crowd reaction, so I don't have a problem with it. For the people watching, it might be a little bit more of a big deal because it's like, oh, well, I wanted to watch it, and I went on Twitter. Well, then, if you really want to watch it, stay off Twitter. Do you know how many spoilers are posted on Twitter? But also, don't forget, I mean, this is not the first NXT title change to happen that was spoiled. Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe beat Finn Balor at a house show in Massachusetts for the NXT title, and it like blew up over the internet. It's like, this is a huge deal. I mean, it gets a reaction still on social media when stuff like this happens, because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, it wasn't televised, or it hasn't aired yet, and this happened. It's like, this is a big deal. People want to talk about it. So title changes happening when people don't expect them are, I think, almost as big a deal. Not as big a deal as when everybody's watching, but almost as big a deal as when everybody has the ability to watch.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's a very valid point, Greg. I think that, if anything, this title change, I'm curious to see what the viewership will be for this week's show compared to previous weeks, to see if there was any bump in the numbers. I would think that there would be a bump, and in that case, I think it's a good idea, because it gets more people talking about NXT, and it might get some new people tuning into NXT. And I have admitted I don't watch NXT weekly, and I'm actually going to check out this week's episode because of the title change, when I otherwise would not have watched it. So I think it just depends on the person, and I don't think it's a bad thing, though.
And I'm fine with it when a feud comes out of it. Like, so if Aleister Black and Ciampa have a feud now, I'll be fine with that. And obviously they should. I mean, Black's going to get his rematch. So what was that one, Greg, where Backlund lost like as a transitional, right? And that makes
like
sense.
4 days. Yeah. It was like a few days, 5 or 6 days after the Survivor Series, when Backlund beat Brett. And Brett was like injured, or they were playing up, they couldn't challenge, and then Diesel fought him in the Garden, and Diesel powerbombed him, beat him in 8 seconds. So, you know, they went on to be champion for almost a year. So that's still a big deal today, because of how quick the title change happened and the fact that there's very little footage of it happening.
What's the chances that, the Universal title will change hands in the dark? Anyway, that's the next topic. Right? So, yeah, that was a joke.
They have to be defended first?
Yeah. Well, all right, so here's the bigger issue. Before we even get to Brock, Roman put Lashley over at Extreme Rules. Lashley got a win, right? Beat Roman clean. But Roman still gets his way into the main event against Brock for the Universal title at SummerSlam by beating Bobby on Raw. Bob, yeah. So there's your 50-50 booking. WWE, did they think that Bob got over because he beat Roman at a pay-per-view, well, if that's what we call them, an event, a network event, but still did the job to Roman to get Roman to SummerSlam? This is where I understand the Roman haters, right? Because it's like everybody for a year leading into WrestleMania was like, Roman's going to beat Brock. This is all right. And it's like WWE's toying with the Roman haters and then they're not giving it to him yet. Meanwhile, Roman's getting pushed. It's always him. So, Greg, I want to start with you. Roman and Lesnar at SummerSlam. How can WWE avoid? This is going to take some rocket science. Fan hijacking. And I throw Lashley's name out there. I throw Strowman's name because of the briefcase, and go. Or Owens. Go.
Yeah, Pittsburgh crowd's not. If SummerSlam happened in Pittsburgh, they'd be giving them applause because they're hijacking a Roman match. But, you know, enough about that. What I think should happen is I think Strowman should get disqualified at SummerSlam. I am actually for Owens winning the briefcase.
Right.
And pulling a Seth Rollins and recreating WrestleMania 31 with Owens walking out as the first ever 2-time Universal Champion. I am for that because Strowman, we said it as soon as he won it, does not need the briefcase.
Right.
He doesn't. It is so cheap. And if they were to have Roman win and then Strowman cash in, they would probably try and turn Strowman heel because that's the way they want to portray it. That is going to backfire on them ridiculously. They should not do that. They should not come anywhere close to doing that. So that's why I think Owen should get the cheap win somehow. Like, Strowman gets mad at him and, like, clobbers him with the briefcase, and then Owens is like, ha, I got you to lose, and then cash in against Roman and Lesnar and pin Reigns, again, a la WrestleMania 31, and take the Universal Championship. So I'm for that scenario. because I said it, it's not going to happen because, what one of my predictions does.
Right.
Well, they made that match with Owens and Strowman for some reason with that stipulation. Stephanie announced it. Is a fail-safe, like if they get cold feet with something. I think they're booking that this early for a reason.
Right, because it just doesn't make sense that Strowman doesn't cash in on Lesnar on Raw this coming week or cash it in before SummerSlam. So maybe this is a situation where they want a backup plan. They want to have their options open so they could potentially go in a different direction depending on how the crowd reacts over the next couple weeks. And I'm really curious now to see what happens on Raw with Owens and Strowman and also with Reigns and Lesnar and where Lashley fits into all this. Is he going to get added to the match perhaps as the third person? That could still happen. Lashley did beat Reigns after all, so you would think that he could say, hey, I beat Reigns, Reigns beat me, we're one apiece. So either we have another match or I get added to the match, making a triple threat. So there's a lot of different ways it can go, and WWE could just play it out week by week and see how things go. Greg?
See, now that you brought that up, what if they did a scenario where Lesnar shows up, him and Reigns get in a fight, and Strowman comes out, cashes in successfully on Raw? What if they just make it, and Owens gets frustrated? It's like, hey, I was supposed to have the shot at the Money in the Bank. What if they make it a fatal 5-way match with Reigns, Lesnar, Strowman, Lashley, and Owens?
They could.
That would be different than having another Reigns-Lesnar match. I think people would be okay with.
I mean, you almost have to think like there's got to be more to this. They can't just do this Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match again in Brooklyn, New York, of all places.
And probably on last, right? I mean, even though you would think maybe Joe and AJ deserve that spot, but...
The only thing I don't like about that is that it's too similar to last year with the Fatal 4-Way with Joe and Strowman and Reigns and Lesnar. It just feels like it's almost the same match. It was a good match, but I do feel it would be too much of the same thing. I would be fine with a triple threat, though, or I would be fine with Owens coming out and cashing in. I don't know. We'll see what happens over the next couple weeks. Big G, any thoughts you have on this whole situation? Any other ideas, maybe?
Well, before I begin, I am against Roman and Lesnar once again. I would love to see anything but. So if it's a triple threat, a fatal 4-way, a fatal 5-way, anything but Roman Reigns and Lesnar once again, unless they decide to pull the trigger and put it on Roman Reigns, that's fine. But if they don't, do something else. Do something else. Please, for the love of God, if Owens has to win the Money in the Briefcase to cash it in, to make it a triple threat or something, I don't care. I just do not want it to be Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar again.
They've left a lot of outs, but I'm going to, again, it's early predictions, but I can definitely see Roman win the title and then Braun cashes it in just so the fans go home happy or somewhat happy, but we'll see. There's a lot of time. We're going to have a lot of Raws before SummerSlam. Aaron will get a review or a preview panel together, so
yep.
Let it all sink in now, and we'll bring this back up on discussion. So time for the main event, and this was, I was really thinking what we could possibly talk about. In the past we've talked about the best male wrestler today, best tag team, best female wrestler, and I can't remember. No, we talked about potential Hall of Famers, I think, before on the NoDQ panel, Aaron.
Have we talked about best bow tie yet?
No. Pee Wee Herman. Oh, wait. So, which deceased wrestler, and I know this is going to be hard, but which deceased wrestler do you each miss the most? And for everybody listening, put it in the comments, too. And I want everybody's honorable mention. That way you can name 2. And it's just a hard one. You might end up naming more than 2. But, Big G, I'm going to start with you. And go back as far as you can remember. I mean, even if it's before your time, but probably someone that affected you because you watched them on TV.
Yeah. Oh, God, I might get emotional here. But 2005, Eddie Guerrero. God, do I miss him. His matches, his promos, everything was just awesome. Every time I hear, I don't know if you guys remember, but when he passed, they did that tribute video with 3 Doors Down Here Without You.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that song, I think of Eddie. Every single time. And I used to live in El Paso, Texas, and they had that underneath the bridge, they had that painting of Eddie Guerrero to remember him. So Eddie Guerrero is my number one. He will always be my favorite. Number two would have to be the Hot Rod Roddy Piper. Also very excellent in the ring, good promo skills, good mic skills. I just liked everything about him. I actually got to see his last Piper's Pit in Maryland Championship Wrestling before he passed, so that was very good to see.
Yeah.
And God, it just sucks. You know, you think about all this stuff and how great they were, and if they were still alive today, what would they be doing? You know, would Eddie still be wrestling?
Right.
I mean, Piper really, he was doing more independent stuff, but it just sucks.
You remember that promo Piper did with Chris Jericho on Raw, and he came out and he, you know, about the legends, and the way Piper could make his voice sound, it was incredible. And Eddie was great too. Great choices, Big G. I'm going to pass it on to Greg next. But yeah, those are two legends for sure.
I mean, I believe all of us will probably say Eddie Guerrero because, I mean, Eddie was incredibly entertaining, whether he was a babyface or a heel, as my dog tries to attack me. He's a big dog. Eddie Guerrero was just fantastic at everything he did. I mean, his lie, cheat, steal stuff was out of this world good. Another, I don't know if he's going to be brought up a lot, but realistically, I think the WWE as a whole would have been completely different with him still here, and that's Owen Hart.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we hadn't have lost Owen in '99, Owen would have easily been one of the top champions. He probably would have been at least 5-time WWE champion by now.
How old was he, Greg? 36?
I think 34.
He was 34. Yeah.
So, yeah, and wrestlers wrestle well under their 40s at that high level. So, yeah, think about it. He could have been wrestling into the 2010s.
Yeah. Well, look at Flair. Flair wrestled his last match at WrestleMania 24, and he was 60-some. And he put on probably the best match of the night. So,
right.
You know, who's to say how long Owen could have gone?
Yeah, definitely.
But Owen definitely would have been that main event guy. He was always there when everybody else in the Hart family left for WCW.
Yep.
Yeah, it just sucks what happened. But, you know, I think Owen definitely would have been... He should be in the Hall of Fame now. And
come on, Martha. Yeah,
that's another topic for another time. But
yeah, definitely.
No.
Yeah, this is a very morbid way to end this video, Virtue. Way to kill the mood.
Yeah, but you know what though? We all have access to the WWE Network or DVDs and YouTube, and it's great to go watch these legends perform. That'll never go away. So that's why if people watching us talk about this maybe didn't see, maybe that was before their time on some of these people, they will go and watch them, and that's what it's about.
Yeah,
remembering Owen Hart. That's what Brett wants, right? People just to remember.
So, Virtue, the question was, who do you miss the most?
Who do you miss the most? Yeah, as a fan watching, and you cover wrestling all the time, so it might be a little bit different for you.
Now, see, obviously everybody retires and everybody does die eventually. Sorry to sound so morbid here, but, you know, growing up, huge fan of Randy Savage, so obviously I miss him, what he could have done, maybe if he had stayed healthy, maybe if he could have wrestled some of the current generation, the possibilities. Roddy Piper, as you guys mentioned. Dusty Rhodes is another one at the top of my list. But I would say Owen Hart and Eddie Guerrero, because Owen Hart, like you said, Greg, probably would have done some great things in WWE. I know there was some talk about him wanting to retire, but keep in mind, like, there were a bunch of big names that came in right after Owen died. Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, and so on. All these guys that Owen could have worked with. Kurt Angle. I think Owen would have stuck around. You know, I'm not a big fan of the what-if questions, but I think if Owen had lived, he would have stuck around with all those new people coming in and with that renewed interest in guys actually having lengthy matches in WWE, because during that Russo period, it was all about the short 5-minute matches, and when Jericho, Benoit, Angle came in, it was more wrestling heavy. So I think Owen would have stuck around, and I think he would have had a resurgence in his career. And Eddie Guerrero. See, the thing that's saddest about Owen and Eddie is that they were still wrestling when they died, and who knows what they could have done if they had lived. You know, with Randy Savage, Piper, Dusty, they were all retired and done with wrestling. So I would go with Owen and Eddie. Virtue?
So my honorable mention, I'm going to say, and again, Owen, Macho Man. I liked Warrior. I know there's some, some of his standards and practices, but, Andre. I watched them all, right? I got emotionally connected to a lot of them. I'm going to give my honorable mention to Chyna just because she wrestled guys. And I'm not talking about what's keeping her from the WWE Hall of Fame, that type of wrestling guys, okay, on the internet. In WWE, I know, Greg, but I had to say it because people think it, right? I'm just being open and honest here. She wrestled guys. I know Jeff was a little difficult to work with. He maybe didn't want to do the job back then, but he still did, right? No matter how much money he had got from Vince, he still did it. Jericho, the program that Chyna had with Eddie, she was a sports entertainer through and through. And the fact that I think out of all these guys, like Vader, I would have liked to see some of these people accept their future Hall of Fame inductions while they were alive, because you can see how much it means to people. It meant a lot to Hillbilly Jim. Hardly anybody remembered him. People don't, maybe think he shouldn't have been in it. But you saw when he gave his speech how much it meant to him and others as well. Chyna and Vader, honorable mentions, because I would have loved to see them get inducted. They wanted it. Those are two people that wanted that recognition. I know we all talk about you don't need recognition. People will just give it to you. It's there. But there are people that want it. But for my number one, and it comes across in my personality a lot. Everybody, the trolling that goes on in the
you're going with.
The trolling that goes on. I don't know, but the trolling that goes on in the comments. It's me, a reflection of. It's who I am. I'm a very egotistical, cocky guy, especially when it comes to talking about wrestling. But I was a huge, and I always will be, Curt Hennig fan, Mr. Perfect.
Oh,
I don't know. And the way he did that character, that is one of the reasons I bought into wrestling when I was a kid. And Bobby Heenan had a lot to do with that, too.
He was the guy I thought you were going to say, actually.
He's paired with Curt in a way, but I did say wrestler. I mean, I know Heenan dabbled with wrestling, but he was more known for being a manager. But again, I saw Perfect perform on TV. I, in a way, became that cocky guy that thought I could do everything and everything I said was right. And in reality, that's my convictions. If people don't like me because of that, I apologize. But I'm a wrestling fan, and that's what makes it fun for me. So, Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. And all of them, rest in peace. We love y'all.
Yeah, let's not forget Ravishing Rick Rude, too.
He was another one of those guys.
Yeah.
And we could talk about these guys forever, but go watch them on YouTube and the WWE Network. That's all I have for today. I hope we can actually have a show that's under an hour. I know people like hearing us talk.
We're close. We're close to an hour here.
I think it's time for plugs, unless anybody else wants to bring up something.
No, I'm good.
All right, Big G.
Okay. Here you go.
Let's do the plugs.
Well, NoDQ.com/Jeff. That's GEOFF. That'll take you to my Twitter page. I'm on Instagram at NoDQ_Big G. I'm on Facebook as well. Go to NoDQ.com/shirts. Get your Big G shirt. Get your NoDQ review shirt. Get your Greg Cherry shirts as well.
At his page.
That's it. At his page, yes. That is it for the Big G. Let's go to Greg Cherry.
Greg G.
Yes.
Yeah.
Greg G. NoDQ.com/Greg. On Twitter at PA Sensation. On Instagram at PA Sensation. I barely use it. Wrestling Trivia Challenge. My next challenger's coming up this week. And should I get past that, I'm sure I have a bunch more. ProWrestlingTees.com/PA Sensation. Buy a shirt. Got a few of them out there. And that's it for me.
All right, and I'm Aaron G. Make sure you guys check out NoDQ.com for the very latest in the world of wrestling. SummerSlam's coming up pretty soon. We got NXT. Lots of good stuff to look forward to. And go to NoDQ.com/shirts. Best way to support the site. Pick up a shirt. Support your favorite NoDQ personality. If you got some money, pick up all the shirts. We got 20+ shirts on there right now. I'm waiting for the day somebody does it. One of these days, somebody's going to be really generous and buy all of the shirts in one sitting. Who that person will be remains to be seen. But That's all I got, Virtue. Let's go ahead and close this out.
All right, nodq.com/virtue with a small v will take you to my Facebook page where Big G and I do the Virtues Rage Raw and SmackDown discussion every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. You can follow me on Twitter at nodq_virtue. And what's your dog's name, Greg?
His name is Bing.
So for Aaron, for Big G, for Greg Cherry, and for Bing,
where's
B-I-N-G.
Yep. Bing Cherry, too.
For everybody and for Bing, I am Virtue. We'll see you next week.